You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. So tweet at us. What do you think about the issues that we have raised? Let's have your views, and we'll share with the rest of the world. OSP fights election auction. Joining us this morning for this discussion, Professor Bafo Ajimandua, former United Nations Senior Governance Advisor, Kofi Bento, Senior Vice President Imani Africa, Andy Kwame Appiah-Kubi, Ranking Member, Subsidiary Legislation Committee. He's MP Asante Akim North. Sorry.
I'm not a member of that committee.
You're a member of the committee, a ranking member?
No.
Okay,
it's
just
changed.
A member.
It's changed now.
Okay.
I'm only a member.
Okay, member of the Subsidiary Legislative Committee of Parliament. He's MP Asante Akim North. Alex Segwefia is Director International Relations, National Democratic Congress. We will also be joined for a very brief chat by Kwame Anyemedu-Antwi, the MP for Asante Akim Central, who is alleged and accused as being the one who has reported his contender to the special prosecutor. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Newsfile.
Morning to you. Morning to you.
Great. Right. Right.
Good morning to our cherished viewers.
So, as you may have followed the developments, on Wednesday, we woke up to news of the Chief Executive Officer of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, Kofi Ofosu-Nkansah, being arrested on Wednesday by the Office of Special Prosecutor ahead of the NPP's parliamentary primaries. He was arrested on charges of distributing money to delegates ahead of the primaries. He is suspected to be using the program's money to be funding his political campaign in the Asante Akim Central constituency in the Ashanti region. And the reports have been that he was arrested following a complaint by the incumbent MP Kwame Anyemedu-Antwi. That is an allegation he denies, and we will share further about what we know on that particular allegation with you. The Asante Akim Central Constituency Secretary Felix Amache, however, insists that it is Mr. Anyemedu-Antwi who brought the alleged money-sharing incident to the attention of the special prosecutor. We tried to get him also to speak to us, but we have been unsuccessful so far. He has been granted bail by the OSP. He contested in 2020, but the incumbent, Kwame Anyemedu-Antwi, defeated him. He has filed to contest again, and there are allegations that he has started distributing money to the delegates ahead of the 27th elections. Let me begin with maybe the politicians in the studio before we go to our guys on Zoom. Yes, Alex, the OSP, I think we should look at it from the general perspective, even though we use this as, you know, the hook, so to speak.
It's steady.
Yes. When you started your primaries, there were people, one particular candidate who was splashing money in the air. The OSP went after that person. And we got into the NPP primaries as well, and people who were paying and showing monies that they had been paid. Some of them, the OSP has issued a wanted, warrants after them, so to speak. And now to this, some say the OSP cannot succeed in this direction because this is a fact. Our politics has been monetized and the votes are bought. He must arrest all the delegates, arrest all the aspirants. He won't succeed. What do you say?
My first comments will put me in exactly what I say. I commend the OSP. I really commend him. Because we have a canker and it must stop somewhere. And the ability to stop it must also start somewhere. this idea that it is everywhere. If you're on the motorway and you're all traveling at 100 mph and they stop your car, it is never an excuse in court that they should have stopped all the cars traveling at 100 mph and therefore you cannot be prosecuted. No. So as far as I'm concerned, the OSP is well within his rights, first of all, to act on a complaint from someone. We are yet to clarify that issue. But once he has a complaint, then he is duty bound to investigate. And no matter what the outcome, and let me use this opportunity to tell the OSP that, look, he is a new body, the leader of a new body that is going to be very difficult for people to stomach. He's already in a difficult position because of the act that brought him into force and his limited powers, in inverted commas, due to the Attorney General actually having the power of. But he must show direction and he must go as far as he can go and not get too frustrated. Because the frustration will come. The moment you are going to deal with corruption regarding public officers, politicians, etc., there will be frustration because we have a protectionist policy in our political parties and more so in some than others, but we will leave that for now. Let's try and be as neutral as possible. And it becomes imperative that he does what he knows he can do within the law. Sometimes he'll get it wrong, sometimes it will be difficult, but he must keep going. Because once he lights the torch, we can then light other torches as we go along. We can amend our laws. We may have to do an amendment to the Constitution at some point, but at least there is a clear-cut vision, and he's the second OSP, let's be clear. The frustration didn't start today. So it is there and it's live. So I commend him. And if it is sharing of money, to say that others have been, no, there's a specific allegation and this is the way to go. What concerns me more is what effect does it really have, except for propaganda or mischief purposes in the actual election. What do I mean? Somebody throws this out and immediately the incumbent is seen as being behind it because he's afraid of competition. And any way you look at it, that is what will come out. So it will be interesting to find out who the real complainant is and what has gone behind it. But once that happens, you are going to then ask, once the election is over, because it doesn't stop the election. He's only been arrested. He's not even been charged with an offense. So it's not going to affect the outcome of the election. If the election is held and the person that has been charged wins the election, what position then are we in? He goes on with his investigation. He finds that this has occurred and then he's convicted. So we are looking at another re-election of the, the candidate for that constituency. If he's acquitted, he then has a gripe against the incumbent because he sees it as him actually dealing with this thing. And if he wins, the incumbent can also take a different view as to how he won the election. So it doesn't bode well for those that are in that position currently. And therefore, we have to look just beyond this. Because is it still going to go ahead? Once the election is over, the OSP should, in order to give us all confidence, should still continue. Unless the witnesses then decide, I want no further part of this case, which is also a possibility. And that to give then credence to the fact that it was all political shenanigans and there was no reality to this. So that is my initial comment on it.
Mr. Piakubi.
My brother, I'm very.
This is close to you.
Yes, I'm
and
very.
the specific one we are using, to do this
I'm
discussion.
very disturbed about the situation, but I think we have to throw the light bigger and wider than we are seeing now, because I don't see so much of corruption, but I see so much of monetization. We need to define the two concepts separately and see where actually we can put our finger. To be honest with you, by interpretation of corruption per our statutes, it has a different meaning and connotation altogether than what is happening now, because there is an expectation of an influence using materialism. There is an expectation of a performance which would otherwise have been contrary to that which you have done and which will be situated within the law and which makes it unlawful for you to have done, then we can pronounce corruption. Indeed, giving money to somebody cannot be interpreted as corruption. And also, even if you're a public officer, if somebody gives you money and it is unable to influence you to act contrary to what your office requires, that cannot be a complete chain of events that has culminated in corruption. So we need to be careful to understand the concepts very well to be able to apportion the blame and apply the law. In this particular instance, I read that there is an allegation of the CEO having used public funds wrongly. Does it make it corruption? If you take money that doesn't belong to you from one position to the other to your benefit, that is stealing. That may not necessarily be corruption, but stealing, because corruption will go beyond the stealing to identify the action of the receiver and situate it within the law and see whether it is inconsistent.
Does your position change on looking at it as stealing rather than corruption?
Look,
or both, when this is what happened, as we understand the facts, that there has been transfers from the program's accounts
yes,
into various accounts, and that the monies have been used to give to delegates.
okay, so
And when questioned, the answers are that this is what we do. We support people, with money. Is it loan? And we understand they are saying, no, this one is not loan. This one is grant. So for free, just giving it to them. And the question is asked, is it not curious that the monies are being distributed only to delegates in your constituency where you are interested in contesting and not any other part of the country at this particular time? So is that not using public office for private gain, which is the definition of corruption?
Samson, that's where you go. Is it the case that he is precluded from advancing money for the purpose for which he did? If under his mandate, he is allowed to do that. Number two, is it only to these identified persons that his office has advanced monies to? If it so comes out that there are other people who are also beneficiaries of the same program, and these people happen to be part of the general, why would you punish anybody else?
So for now, let's stick to what we know. So that these are monies coincidentally at a very time that you are going into a contest. And the money is being given to beneficiaries who are delegates.
You see, when you narrow it like that, you are tempted to look at it differently. But again,
600 of them, right?
Look at the mandate of the office. What is he supposed to do? He's supposed to give some amount of money which has been designated as grant to business people or people who have proposals. Is this money part of that grant money? Has he received the certain proposals as per the applicants? Do they qualify for the support that he is giving? It doesn't matter wherever they are. Are they not Ghanaians? If they are, and they have satisfied the criteria for selection, And they have been so, and something. You told me that there are about 600 delegates also.
That's right.
But we are talking about 10 people. So does it mean that he has only selected 10 people who have not qualified, or out of the, say 600, all of them applied, but only 10 of them may have qualified and may have received the advancement of resources? How criminal is that if they have conformed to the expectation of the office? Does it?
One of them is the constituency secretary who presently is speaking for this particular candidate, and unimpeachable sources suggest that he alone received about 20,000 Ghana cedis.
Is it illegal for one person to receive 20,000 Ghana cedis? If the answer is no, then it cannot stop the CEO from doing, or the office from doing that. But something, me and you.
The person is a constituency secretary. The person is presently speaking for this particular candidate.
He may be anybody, but trust me, in the case of Salah and Attorney General, the complaint was about somebody's closeness to a judge. What was the determination? That Ghana is a closed community. If we begin to identify people's office with their personal relationships, we won't get anybody to do any public job. Something, me and you, we are friends. Assuming I am in charge of an office, you are duly qualified for an application you put before me. Am I going to reject you because you are my friend? Will that be fair on you? Am I going to select somebody who is not my friend over you, although you may be more qualified than the person?
So this this is a coincidence, not a curious coincidence, really.
So
is that what you're saying?
In all cases, I will not use relationship as a criteria for selection or for rejection. But look at the terms of the office. What am I supposed to do in selecting? Well, first and foremost, is there a fund like that?
Right, there is.
Am I supposed to disburse this fund?
You are.
On what criteria will appear to be qualified as an applicant? So you check, is his name appear to be yes? Is his age 66? Yes. Is he married? Yes. Has he a business proposal? Yes. Does it fit into the context?
Additionally, is he a delegate? Am I contesting elections where he's a delegate?
Something. Being a delegate or contesting an election doesn't make you doesn't deny you of your Ghanaian citizenship. It doesn't deny you of also your business inclinations. It doesn't deny you of the proposal that you own. It doesn't deny you of the opportunity that is available to Ghanaians, of which you are also one.
So that you don't even see an abuse. No. You don't see an abuse of office if these facts are what they are.
Notwithstanding the possibility of an abuse, what I have started doing is go through the checklist. Okay. Does he qualify?
All right.
So you must pre-qualify as a means of going from stage 1 to stage 2. Then stage 2, all the qualified applicants are here. Am I going to deny something because something is a delegate? No. If something is a delegate and there is somebody who is not a non-delegate, what is the quality of their application? Is something number 1 and the other one number 2, or is something number 2 and the other one number 1?
Right.
So if the non-delegate is number 1, then I am obliged to serve the non-delegate. But if, notwithstanding the relationship, something is still number 1, on what grounds will I deny the delegate because he's a delegate? All no. Right. So let's put those as a junior's considerations aside and look at the terms of office and the laws and also the programs and the capacities and the applications and all, and make sure that we are doing what is right by way of pre-qualifying the qualified people. Okay. So that we will otherwise, something, if you continue, he's a delegate, don't see him. And again, the good thing is that you say that there are 600 of them. 10 of them are being considered. And if 10 of them are being, what happened to the other 590? Did they apply and did
if the 10 are identified to appear to hold some sort of leadership, within these delegates.
Does it disqualify you from anything?
Does that not suggest something to
Does
you?
it disqualify you also from anything?
That they may be the recipients who will then distribute.
Like I said, the friend scenario. Something, are you telling me that because you are my friend, if you pre-qualify for a position, I should disqualify you because you are my friend? No, right. I don't think so. Let's look at the checklist.
And from our investigations, there is no paperwork.
Well, that is another
for
matter.
All of this.
That is another matter. If there is no paperwork, then the pre-qualification criteria probably has been abused. If that is the case, then we can cite him for wrongdoing.
All right.
But
let me go to the phone. We have Kwame Ayimedu-Antwi on the line.
For purposes of expanding the law, me and you may sacrifice to defend him, and let's see what the law will put us and put him and put the OSP.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ayimedu-Antwi.
I'm inviting him as counsel.
Mr. Ayimedu-Antwi, thank you for joining us on Newsfile this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Right. So as we understand, the constituency secretary who is now speaking for Kofi Ofosu-Nkansah and justifying why he has to replace you tells the whole world unambiguously that you were the first to have given some money to the delegates, about 300 cedis each to the 600 delegates. And then Kofi Ofosu-Nkansah, it gets to his turn, and he is also doing it, and it's only Christmas gifts that is being given. Why do you report him to the OSP if you are the one who did so?
Something like the latter part of your question, that if I am the one. And I think the question should have been straight whether I am the complainant. Something I am not. And whatever the secretary is saying is mere speculation. So I am not the complainant. I have not reported Kofi Ofosu-Nkansah to OSP.
So we have confirmed that you indeed are not the one, but it's a constituent. Why would they accuse you of being the one who made the complaint?
It's something I'm competing again, and it gives me some confidence that probably because among the three of us contesting for the pending parliamentary primaries as I'm still in Central, I'm probably the strongest. So maybe an accusing finger might be pointing at me, but I am not. And the secretary, when he says it emphatically, he was not even sure. He was relying on the fact that somebody had informed him. Unfortunately, the assistant secretary that he said informed him, said that he hasn't even spoken to me for weeks, and he had also not communicated to the secretary. So his allegation is unfounded.
I see. But was that really Christmas gifts that you were giving to them? Two of you have been distributing to your delegates, or this is clearly to win their votes?
I haven't admitted that I had given some of the amount that you mentioned. For 15 years that I have been a member of Parliament, every 6 months, it's a ritual that I do. I do to this, I do to Queen Mothers, I do to party people. I do not know what the secretary is complaining of. And he stands to benefit most of the church.
He confirms that delegates receive these monies from you. And for his part, you actually sought to get his father to convince him to name his price to you because you needed him as sort of an arrowhead to assist your campaign.
That is not correct. He never, when he started, this game, when he started, then he has done this. I thought that was too below the belt. So I called the father and said that it is in our dialect, that it is the owner of the dog that can remove the bone from the dog's mouth. Because he is the father, I would want him to talk to the son to stop what he is doing. All these things that he's talking about are me telling him to name his price are fabricated if they are unfounded. And he told him that never.
All right. But briefly, how is your campaign going? It does appear from what we hear from this particular constituency secretary, Felix Amachi, that you haven't done much, and that this Kofi Ofosu-Nkansah, since he got into government, he has helped people to get scholarships, taking them abroad. He pays medical bills for people and so on, and has been around the place helping the constituents. So you haven't done really much. He deserves to take over from you. Okay, so we lost him. It's okay. We can leave it there.
Maybe if you allow me to give the answer for him, because I also feel the same pain, and it's an institutional thing that our parties ought to address going forward. You see, we procure power.
I understand Imedu is back, so I'll get to you also. Yes, what do you say to my question?
Yes, so I haven't asked him as he's alleged to name his price. Switch my language.
No, we have gone beyond that. I was asking that Felix Amachi has been speaking for Kofi Ofosu-Nkansah, and he says that you don't deserve another term after 4 terms, is it? Particularly because since you came into government and Kofi Ofosu-Nkansah got the opportunity of a small office, according to him, not even as big as your place, he has been able to use his influence in government to pay for people's scholarship abroad for studies, among others. He has been paying the medical bills of almost any constituent who is in need, and he's there helping the people. But you are not doing that, so you should check out.
Well, something my simple response to that is, if you think that he is a better candidate, let me compete and lose. Why would he say that, don't take a form? Why would they urge me, step down, when other constituents are saying that they are urging me on to go on? It is not fair for a constituency secretary to say that the constituency is not doing well, or there is an opportunity, let me contest and lose. And if indeed the constituents don't like me, I will lose. Or instead, if he wants his candidate to win, he must go to the ground and talk to the delegates. And if they listen to him and he wins, so be it. All of us will rally behind him and campaign for the 2024 election.
All right.
To say that Fami and Nimedu should not contest, it means that you are scared of me of winning. And something, clearly I'm going to win.
All right. We wish you the best of luck, the both of you. And yes, you wanted to say something, sort of an advice to the party.
To the parties. In fact, it is the parties that create this unwholesome competition, backbiting, undermining, and the sort. You see, when it comes to the season, the members of parliament with the party executives, we work together to procure power. When we procure the power, the distribution of the power puts somebody as MP, somebody as CEO, somebody as ambassador, somebody as minister, and all that. What the expectation of the aggregation means is that we should all mobilize the spoils of power and distribute equitably. Unfortunately, it happens that the people who procure the power through their sweat and effort will be in parliament. Other people who may not even have contributed to it through the magnanimity of the leader of the party, PE, president, or whoever, puts people in certain poor positions. In most of the cases, the people who are put in such positions per the whims of the leader, president of the country, or leader of the party, become more resourceful than the people who prosecuted the power and who are prosecuting the agenda of government. In fact, Parliament...
What do you mean? Are they paid more than the MPs?
Most of them are paid more than the MPs. And the responsibilities on the MP Their responsibilities are not on those government appointees. And in any case, they have access to also resources, as we are talking about. And in most cases, in particular in our regime, we had advocated that if people like that wanted to contest for parliamentary seats, let them resign their positions 2 years before the primaries so that they will compete. But behind the scenes, the CEOs form also association of CEOs, and they have a gargantuan plan to return to parliament and replace the MPs who prosecuted the power. So when they have resources like that, and they also have opportunities, they share among themselves instead of sharing through the MPs. For example, if you are an MP, you want, let's say, one scholarship for your constituent, chances are that you will put in the application, it will not be considered at all. And the CEOs who work on another level, they meet annual monthly meetings. So they become very close friends. So that CEO from your constituency will also nominate somebody to his friend, scholarship secretariat CEO, who is meeting him every month. Say this is, and then they put in Asante Achimnov, Kwesi Mensah. Meanwhile, the MP doesn't know Kwesi Mensah. It is his friend, another CEO, who has brought the Kwesi Mensah. Kwesi Mensah gets the scholarship, albeit we are from the same constituency, so no problem. But the CEO will come back and tell the constituents that Apia Kubi, who is your MP, cannot do this. I, who is the CEO, have done this. And therefore, I will serve your interest better than Apia Kubi if I was selected. You see, and I see this whole indiscipline is within the government and within the parties. We must tackle it. Otherwise, there will be perpetual conflict every year when we have elections like this.
What a country.
What a country.
I have a problem even with the line.
And actually presently, you know, the Controller Accountant General is contesting and nobody is saying there's anything wrong with what he's doing. I think even this, we have been talking scholarship. The guy in charge of the scholarship secretariat, he's also contesting. Maybe the journalist should go check how many people got scholarship from that particular constituency and to compare if they were meritorious.
That is the whole, you see, Samson, the line of argument we've been having makes my stomach churn.
He speaks about the spoils of power.
Yes.
And how it ought to be distributed.
If you are helping people with your money.
He's being candid, frank.
Yes.
That's what he's doing here.
Yes. But if you have your money and you are helping people to come to power, or you are contesting, fine. The allegation in this case is that you have used public funds indirectly.
Which you have a control over to give us grants.
And that is why this is unwholesome. And some people say, oh, we only 10. They are part and parcel of an exercise you are involved in called an election. Is it today that you recognize that they need grants? They didn't recognize that they needed grant earlier. You waited for their primaries before you decided this person is somebody who needs a grant. It's the public financial side. But for us to even sit and say, oh, look, when they get into these positions, they then become more resourceful. What I'm hearing is that we now become even more corrupt. Because those resources are supposed to be distributed to all Ghanaians. So even if it's happening, let's not be here and give the impression that it is a good thing that is happening. It's reality. I'm not saying it's not reality.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm not saying you did. I'm saying it's reality. And you are, but we should speak against it, at least publicly.
Exactly what we are doing.
That this is, you cannot become resourceful by virtue of the fact that, in a way, that influences elections. If you're helping people, help. Let everybody say that. But to say that I've helped, therefore, as he is saying, therefore, I'm better than the next person because I've used government resources to help you.
All right. So, Professor Bafo Ajimandia, there was a good reason I decided to speak to the politicians before I get to you and Kofi Bento. Particularly at the Scholarship Secretariat, Alhaji Suleiman sent me a message, and he was on our Joy Change Speaker series, and he mentioned how rotten the Scholarship Secretariat is. Prof, let's hear you on the OSP's fight against the corruption in elections and what you think he should be doing, whether he will succeed or not.
Well, thank you, Samson, and good morning to my good friends in the studio. Listen, Samson, let me make just a quick comment on this issue of corruption. I think the sophistry with which educated Ghanaians are able to define and redefine actions in the political arena, and the kinds of arguments we push, makes me wonder whether the education all of us have been receiving over the years, that education is a curse when it comes to governments. Because look, our old people and so-called uneducated people will not be so sophisticated in defining corruption as a way of getting away when we are caught. And I think one reason why the public has lost, or perhaps is losing very rapidly, confidence in the political system that we have and the leaders we have is because of this sophistry. We can define corruption in many ways, but listen, clearly, there's a problem with our political system and the kinds of characters that are elected to lead us into paradise, so to speak. There's a serious case of political corruption and moral corruption. Nobody wants to discuss these issues when it comes to this. Look, I will say that if you look at the state institutions, and a friend in the studio referred to perhaps meetings of CEOs and all, there are certain state institutions that this and previous governments, and this government, they set it up and give these institutions millions of cedis to address certain social problems. One of them is the NEIP, economic problems, or Maslow and all these kinds of organizations. We seldom get reports about their performance, or especially the financial performance of these institutions. All we hear is that we have trained 40,000. We have given so much to 100,000 people, claiming victory. Yet, the problems that they were mandated to address persist. At times, the problems even become, broadened. So, I think there's a serious problem we have to look at. Now, with the OSP, certainly, Mr. Jaben is having serious problems. He has come publicly to express his frustrations, either because he's finding it difficult to penetrate the system that is so solid. And this system, by the way, is not just NPP system, it's NPP NDC. I can bet you, if there's change of government and get a new government from the other side, these issues will still be there. So the point I'm making here is there is a need for, until we get the transformation that we need, because I sincerely believe if there was a third choice in these coming elections, most people will opt for that, because our politicians have used their sophistry, their legal studies, whatever studies they've done, to continuously trick the public. So if you sense a high level of frustration in this country, it is because of these kinds of arguments that we make. Somebody gets a job with nothing behind the person in terms of experience or wealth or anything. 4 years later, this person wants to be a parliamentarian. With what? With the public money that he's been entrusted to administer. That's my thinking. Because if you give me a job and I didn't have a house, I didn't have a car, my bank account perhaps was zero, and I'm able to dish out money to my constituents, whether they are Christmas gifts or whatever, My first question would be, where did you get the money? And if you look at a trend, Samson, it's not only under this government. That's why I always have my problem with the two parties. People who get into such positions, call them CEOs, state agents, heading state agents, 90% of them, towards the end of their first term on the position, will seek to get into parliament. And most of them win because they have resources that you and I don't have. That is the issue. Where do they get the money from? So if you go and dish out money because Christmas, you are giving gifts, from where? So I think because perhaps our leadership are not taking this issue seriously by reprimanding, exposing, prosecuting, putting people in jail and for all these things, the thing continues because it seems, very unfortunately, that these two parties, this duopoly, it's a condominium. They know what they're doing. And they are continuously ripping this country off. These are my initial comments.
Do you think this might be too much for the special prosecutor, particularly dealing with politicians? This is a special prosecutor who is already being vilified. You can see concerted attempts to destroy the purpose for which it was set up. Will it succeed? And we are waking up to, just yesterday, another big politician who potentially could have become the flag bearer of the party and may have continued to become a president of this country, go to Bantama and tell the delegates there that they should vote for his brother so that he does not tell the secrets of corruption that he knows. But if they vote against his brother, he will tell the world about the rot that he knows that has gone on between the incumbent whilst he was at the presidency as a deputy chief of staff.
Sad, isn't it, something? Very sad. See, when I mention political corruption, I also mention moral corruption. This is what we are witnessing. If you know somebody has committed a crime in the state, and you go public to say, well, I'm holding on to this truth, something that may have damaged this country's development. So if you vote against my brother, then I will reveal it. For what purpose? I don't even understand. If these people who want to rule over us have this kind of mindset, I don't understand. But you see, the thing is this. That's why people like me, I continue to say there's a need for a radical change, first in our constitution, and the way we do political business. The system that we created, and I don't blame those who wrote the constitution and those who have been writing our laws, we have created an inherent corrupt system in all of these things. And people do these things and get away. We talk about transparency, accountability. When has anyone, after finishing a tenure in the state institutions, that person has been called to, if auditors do their job, do we know? The public needs to. So there's no public accountability in these kinds of matters. So I guess the politician, and I'm not saying all politicians are evil, please don't get me wrong, but from what we hear and what we observe, it is pathetic that people wanting to rule this country do not have what it takes to make this country wholesome. You see, lately we're getting videos from Benin, for Rwanda, we are seeing what is going on in other countries. And Ghana likes to say we were the first to be independent, south of the Sahara, we are the first and blah, blah, we are first in everything. We are the last in most things that we cherish. That's the basic fact. And more sadly, Samson, when the campaign hasn't started, but when you hear what politicians are promising, what they want to do, it comes nowhere near attacking the fundamental faith that is embedded in our system.
All right.
So if you ask me about the OSP, I'm afraid Mr. Jabin will leave the office a very disappointed individual.
Wow. So Kofi Bentil, I suppose you would have calmed down. I was deliberate. because I know you. You are a very good friend. You'd have calmed down now. And see, on this particular issue, for example, the OSP made a call to the CEO to report on Tuesday the 9th. And they made a call to him on the 4th and to report on Tuesday the 9th. But he reported on the 10th, Wednesday. The OSP was keeping everything under wraps, quietly, doing its work. And then they decided to now blast it to the public. Got party supporters to go to the office where they were taking the people arrested to go and seek to get evidence. And those people were rather blocking the OSP, denying them access to the office. And you have heard party people now turn this rather against the OSP and say he's acting in Rambo style, arresting people. What do you say, Kofi Bento?
Good morning, Samson. Yes, I'm calm, and I'm hopeful. You know, the OSP's job is not easy. It was never going to be easy. And something I often say, that do not be surprised by what should not surprise you. So what we should look for is a man like Kisei Jaben, who, despite what he has to deal with, will proceed, will continue, will struggle through, and will get us to a better place. And that's why he deserves our support. So it's not surprising. I wish it was different. I wish the rhetoric you hear from our leaders about how we want or need to fight corruption would translate into their action. They don't want to fight corruption. They don't, want it to stop. In fact, many people go into public office specifically because they believe that when they put themselves next to public resources, they get opportunity to be corrupt and solve their personal problems. So it's unfortunate that we don't have a moral or ethical leadership. And I agree with Professor Bafo Jimandia that this kind of situation is what keeps many people also away. Because if you have a moral leadership, if you have a moral or ethic, you have a situation where even the semblance of it, is disturbing to them. So we have a problem on our hands which we need to deal with. But what we all have to appreciate is that it doesn't solve itself. And even with determined work like what Kisi is doing, it will not solve itself easily or quickly. So we have to be consistent in our fight against corruption and appreciate that there will be a time price to pay, and we must pay that time price. And we must also have a lot of latitude for people like Kisei Japan, for them to make mistakes in trying to fight this corruption thing. I've said before on this platform that it's like making sausage. When it's done, it's a nice and smooth product. But the process of fighting corruption is messy and you don't want to be there. But you have to go through that if you're going to make the sausage and enjoy it at the end of the day. So generally on the issue of fighting corruption, we should not despair. We should not, be despondent. We should not give up. It's too soon. What we should do is consistently support the people who are in the arena and trying to do the work, like you said, Jabin, and everybody else, the police. You have an IGP in the person of, IGP Dampare, who is doing the best I have seen in my lifetime. But what do you see? People rise up against him. What is not surprising is that people rise up against people who are fighting corruption. Other people should rise up in their support. You have people like Domelovo, who rose up to fight it, and he was fought back, And again, you need to find people to rise up to support him. In that matter, it happened. But we lost the court. And I say we lost the court because the court did not act timeously. Later on, they come to say, yes, we were right. I'm saying this because next time, we need to find institutions and people rising up to the occasion timeously in defense of these people who are in the arena fighting corruption. All of us cannot bear that office and do that work. We will have to push people forward to take it up and do it. So Kisi is doing it right, and we all have to support him actively and not give up. On the specific issues, one, let it all be clear that the OSP is acting within his powers. He's doing his job and doing it properly within the law. He must be supported. The other important thing that happened is until he has been proven guilty. But if the report against him and the prima facie evidence against him is what we hear it is, then he must understand that, one, he is not immune from investigation. So what is going on is investigation. It is not persecution. And that is the work of the OSP. The next thing we must appreciate is that, look, corruption fight necessarily requires popular support. Now, the way to get popular support is to start it from the top. The OSP will fail miserably if he leaves these glaring problems like monetization of our politics, which we all see, and goes after people stealing books and little monies here and there. So this is the right approach. So people must appreciate that, look, there's a lot of calmness needed. Let the man do his job. If Kofi Ofosu is innocent, let him prove himself, okay? The problem of monetization of politics is a long-standing problem which is getting worse. And as it gets worse, it will bear even more terrible results. And therefore, we must make sure we nip it in the bud. And this is the way to do it. So let's get all the things together and appreciate that we are on the right path. This is the messy process of fighting corruption, but it is absolutely necessary if we are going to get somewhere.
What do you say to those who say this is going to be a Herculean task for the OSP, also because the law doesn't seem to be so clear-cut on this kind of vote buying that we see in the open? The representation of the people's law, of course, talks about bribery in elections. It says if you directly or you act through another person, give money or obtain an office for a voter or in order to induce the voter to vote or refrain from voting, if you corruptly do some of these things. It also talks about if you advance monies for the purposes of, gaining the vote. It talks about treating, which is even the worst of it, that if you corruptly, either by yourself or through another person, before, during, or after an election, you give or provide or you pay wholly or in part the expenses of giving or providing meat, drink, entertainment, or provision to or for any person for the purposes of corruptly influencing them to vote or refrain from voting for one person. There's also the undue influence part. You do it directly or you do it through another person, you will be in trouble. These go to public elections. The primaries are not deemed to constitute public elections, but internal elections. The Political Parties Act only adds for public elections to be the election of the party executives and the leaders, not primaries to elect, MPs. It is only in the case of the Yevi and Avalifo where the Supreme Court said a political party is a public entity, and therefore, if a situation arises, they should be deemed as such and dealt with. So some say the OSP will have a difficult task. What do you say?
I don't think so. It looks like that, but something, this is why as to whether the laws are sufficient or not, and whether the OSP can, secure a conviction, that's why the courts are there to take a look at it. What we must also appreciate that there are other nuances to this. This is a public official who is accused of using public finances or resources for a personal good. So even if it's not in the area of the Political Parties Act where, those things apply, on that alone, the usage of public funds and whatever it is for whatever purpose, a lot can be done. But for me, we shouldn't go into the legal nitty-gritty here. That's why the OSP exists. The important point, however, is this. Again, in fighting corruption, we have to appreciate that you have to get into the arena and be doing it and be, taking things as they come. And that's why I said we have to have a wide latitude. People like Isi Jabe. And where we find that there are loopholes, so the things that we've listed, if they turn out that, this thing has happened, but there are loopholes that make the person walk away free, then we need to amend the law. Again, fighting corruption takes diligent, consistent effort over time. We won't snap it in one, fell swoop. So I hear what you're saying, but that is exactly why we must go at it the way Kisi Ajame is going about it. Pick them up. He didn't wake up yesterday and then decided to go after Kofi Ofosu. There was a complaint. There are this and that allegations. He has acted upon that. He goes to court and makes his case. If Kofi Ofosu turns out to be innocent, he should walk.
All right.
But if he's guilty, then he should go in. But in the process, we get to understand the working of the law and how it plays out. But that is how we fight corruption. See, in my view, it is not a requirement of Kisi Ejabeng to be successful in every attack, in every effort to unearth corruption or fight it or reveal it. He does not need to ensure success in every effort. What he needs to do is to be active in fighting it and show diligent effort at every time. It will be a problem if he's seen to be selective. It will be a problem if he's seen to be biased. Diligent effort is what we require, and consistent diligent effort, so that when the process is gone through, people who turn out to be innocent appreciate that, look, there is this process where if I am truly innocent, it will show me as innocent.
All right.
And therefore, they will mind what they do so they don't even get into trouble.
Okay.
But then they also know that even the semblance of corruption is high risk. It is most uncomfortable to go near it. Okay? So do not be seen, do not be suspected. And if you can't handle that stuff, don't go into public office.
All right.
So for me,
thank you.
Success is not required, but diligent effort is required. And this is what makes corruption high risk and most uncomfortable. And it is a standard.
In 30 seconds, Kofi, in 30 seconds for yourself and Professor Bafo Adjumandua, as we take a quick break and return to our other issues, do you expect certain persons within the hierarchy to be speaking about some of these things so that the OSP2 may feel he has support to go after this?
Yes, Samson, I will personally desire that everybody running for office verbalizes his support against corruption. Everybody, President Mahama, Vice President Bawumia, everybody verbalizes. Again, it is not required.
But they are all paying these monies. How can they be speaking about it?
Well, it is one of the things that I am looking for. You know where I stand, and I am looking, for instance, for each of the presidential candidates, including Vice President Bawumia, to take a strong stand against corruption.
All right,
and
thank you.
If they don't do it, it will be a mark against them. Again, it is not required that Kisi Ejabeng be perfect. It is required that he be given the support necessary to do his work to the best of his ability.
Right.
So yes,
same question to you, Professor Bafo Adjumandua. Who are you expecting beyond people like you? I'm talking about people holding public office. At what level should be saying what? For example, there's an MP, Alfred Obeng, who told the public that if his opponents are going to pay 10,000, he will double it. If they are going to pay 20,000, he will double it. He said he has kept money in dollars for that purpose during the primaries, and no party person has said anything.
Something, talking about corruption at times, I like what my good friend Kofi said, that we better not give up. We have to keep consistently fighting. But the fact is that all these things go on. So if you ask me, where should we, at what level should we be talking? Secondly, the president. We have created a very strong executive. He's the president. If the president were able to stand firm, denounce, condemn, make sure corporates are put away, that is how people will begin to believe that something is happening. So we need strong statements from whoever is the leader. But you see, the biggest problem here, too, as we all say, corruption is embedded in our system. Secondly, we are a country where we seem to be afraid of enforcing the law. Maybe one of them said earlier, started a case where we are all related, we are friends, we are brothers, blah, blah. So nobody gets penalized. Daylight robbery, people get away. Once we are not able to begin to enforce the law and punish people who are found to be corrupt through the proper processes of the law, we will never succeed. We are afraid to simply enforce the law. And that for me is the biggest challenge. There's no democracy in this world where there have been success without law enforcement, period.
Right.
And we are afraid to enforce them.
Thank you very much. And many are worried now that seeking political office is to the highest bidder. All you need is have a deep pocket. You come and pay the delegate and you unseat whoever is there and you move on. K. Amofa says, I do not know anymore what we want as Ghanaians. If MPP are complaining about the work of the OSP they appointed, what will be the fate of the OSP in the event NDC wins the 2024 elections? We need to allow public agencies to work. Little Tete says, to my mind, if we do not get a handle on money in politics and the degree to which big money controls the political process in this country, nobody is going to bring about the changes that is needed in this country for the middle class and working families. Hulu Umwa, dishonorable. If I steal public money and give it to individuals so they can do something for me, it is corruption. And I bet this creature will call himself a moral entity. P. Boache 88, you say Ghana is sick, where our leaders only care for next elections. CEOs are abusing their office. John Mufti, politicians have become so accustomed to this sort of corruption. They genuinely think it is what election campaigns are about, a competition of promises for partiality. Political corruption is rampant in this country and needs to be corrected. This one says, Alhaj Suleiman says, scholarships are giving us confetti. The scholarship secretariat is a rotting zone. And Andy Apia Kubi nails it right on the head. And Don Pino, it's such a long message, but you say what you have a problem with is the OSP's style of selective, prosecution. John Mahama and the NDC also spent money in similar ways, and they are not being pursued. Why is he pursuing people in the NPP? Okay, the politicians never cease to amaze you. Is this not synonymous to turning the public accounts of a state institution into the private bank account of the CEO if there is no paperwork for the payment and transfers made? Wow, the facts seem to be different from what was initially put out. Yeah, that's correct, because the OSP doesn't want to be speaking in the public, but the politicians are taking the lead to speak. Those who are involved or connected are taking the lead to speak, and they are saying all the things, and the OSP is not replying them. Musa Batoa in Kumasi says, I'm surprised Honorable Andiapia Kubi is lamenting regarding the undue advantage that CEOs have over the MPs. Is he not the same person who failed to cooperate with the OSP relative to corruption allegations? He led 80 MPP MPs against the anonymous wealthy businessman. Kofi Bentil could have been fair to the fact that MPP started monetizing our democracy in 2007 at Legon, where they shared dollars during presidential primaries. Really? You are saying the NDC only learned from the NPP? Right. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You see,